Hello, this is Ollie1Roddy here with Arsenal Talk on the Halftime Chat, and this week's episode is on one of the biggest transfer rumours going around at the moment for two strikers that could be heading Arsenal's way, players Olivier Giroud and Fernando Llorente. Now, this week's video is going to have a bit of a change. I've got a goal scoring compilation to go along with some of the facts that I'm going to read out about the players. So I hope you enjoy those while I'm blabbing on. So let's start with Giroud. Olivier Giroud playing in Montpellier, France, 25-year-old. He's 6'4", fairly strong, big powerful player. Now let's look at his stats. So he started 36 games this season for Montpellier, scoring 21 goals. He is the league's top scorer, did help them win the league this season in France. He's also got 9 assists in that time, which is very good, obviously, for that teamwork factor. So 30 goals then he's responsible for this season, which is a very good return. Last 4 years, he has started 134 matches with 11 substitute appearances. In that time, scoring 72 goals and getting 12 assists as well. No, I think that's very good. I mean, it works out as 72 goals and 145 appearances. It's pretty much as close as you're going to get to 1 goal in 2 appearances. Now, bearing in mind, he has played for the last 4 years, but only the last 2 years he's been in League 1. Before that he was in League 2. I think importantly though, he's scored more goals in League 1 than he has in League 2. He's really stepped up the goal scoring since he's coming to the First League. And I think that might be the sign of a player who relishes the challenge, and maybe a move to the Premier League would be good for that. So also we'll look at the fact that he has been chosen to play for France in the Euros this summer. Obviously a sign of appreciation for his performances in the Cup. Now, we'll have a quick look at the cost. We'll come back to this later, but he's been quoted as having a buyout clause of 12.4 million. He's also been said by the club's president that he will be allowed to leave the club if the buyout clause is met. He's also on the last year of his contract. Arsenal have been suggested already as putting forth a deal of Chamakh and 6.4 million for the player. I think a lot of Arsenal fans would be happy with that, obviously, because Chamakh's not played very well, netting only 1 goal in 19 appearances this season. Most of those were substitute, though, to be fair to Chamakh. I don't think he's had a great chance to shine this season, but I think a lot of us supporters, including myself, really have thought that he's not really shown the ambition to go forward this season and force his way into the team, and maybe we need someone slightly different just to really push forward for a place. We want people fighting for places and not just expecting to place because they're the only other players in that position. So over to Fernando Llorente now. Llorente playing for Atletico Bilbao in Spain. He's 27-year-old and slightly taller than Giroud. He's 6'5". Now he's only played 32 games in the league this season, netting 17 goals and getting 1 assist. It is worth noting though, he has played a lot of games in Europe and in the Spanish Cup, also for his country, in which he scored 30 goals in 45 appearances. That's all of the appearances he's made this season, and that's all of the goals. In his career, which has gone back for the last 8 years or so when he's really been playing, he's had 221 starts, 71 substitute appearances, 111 goals in that time and 22 assists. Now, again, that's a very impressive statistic. I think he's closer to 1 in 3 over the 8-year period, but I think over a longer time that's still quite consistent. Obviously he's also got the 22 assists, so he's obviously a good striker. He's obviously got a good record. He has only played in La Liga, however. He's never played for any other club except Atletico Bilbao. He's also played in the UEFA Cup and in Europe. Had a few matches for Spain, although he has found it difficult to get in ahead of the other strikers, David Villa and Fernando Torres especially. For this reason, I believe he's not been chosen to represent Spain in the Euros this year. I imagine that that's the reason. It is slightly concerning that he couldn't get in ahead of Fernando Torres, who's had a particularly poor season for Chelsea. But I mean, I can only imagine that's because of Torres' performance against Barcelona. Perhaps was seen as a inspirational performance, and Spain need players like that. I don't know. I can't see inside Vincent Del Bosque's head, but I'm sure his reasoning will become clear when the tournament starts. The price of Llorente, we're looking at a 28 million buyout clause has been quoted. In the papers, it has been suggested that a 20 million deal will be made for the player, and of which we will have to see. So let's look at the comparison. Right, now they're both big guys, both physical guys, both play that central striker role. Make no illusions, we're not going to see either of them on the wing anytime soon. They've both got that poacher's mentality. They're both fairly good in technique. I'd say that Llorente is a better technical player, probably a better dribbler as well. Giroud tends to be a bit more of a physical dribbler, kind of I'm going in that direction, try and stop me, as opposed to Llorente will try and work his way round players. They've both got fairly good pace. I wouldn't say it's anything special, but definitely good enough to keep up and push past defenders. And they're both very good finishers. I'd say actually that Giroud, being a bit more athletic, is probably more likely to do the spectaculars. He's scored quite a few overhead kicks in the last few seasons and had a go at even more overhead kicks in the last few seasons. Most of them have been fairly good attempts. Whereas I remember particularly Llorente's goal against Manchester United was a great technical goal, reminded me of the Van Persie goals. They're both good headers as well. Again, I'd probably say Giroud, just because of his physicality and his sort of attacking of the ball, I'd say he's probably a better header of the ball, but Llorente is still a very good header of the ball. Now let's look at the leagues they're playing, because obviously Giroud is playing in the French league, and it's often considered the French league to be the weakest of the 5 leagues in Europe. And I mean, scoring 21 goals in the French league is all very good and well, but are you going to do that in the Premier League? I think he will, if he does come. I mean, we look at Jelavic, and he got a lot of criticism because he came from the Scottish League, and it was saying, well, he's come from the Scottish League, he can't possibly come to the Premier League and score lots of goals, and obviously he's done that. And I think physical strikers do find it quite easy to blend into the physical style of the Premier League, and if anything, it gives them a little bit more. Because in the leagues they were playing in, perhaps it was less physical, and they got penalised for some of their more physical play approaches. Diving into headers and really pushing past players. Whereas if that's allowed in the Premier League, that could open room for even more goals. Obviously, Llorente only ever played in the Liga. The league is a fantastic league. I don't think the defending is quite the quality as it is in the Premier League, but I don't think there's any negatives about coming from La Liga. I think it shows you how to improve your technical side of the game. That can be just as important. Now, my concern, really, for Llorente is the price, because 28 million is a lot of money, especially when we have Robin Van Persie at the moment, who's supposed to be our star striker. Now, what would worry me is if we did sign Llorente, that would very much indicate that Van Persie is on his way. I don't see Arsenal spending £20 million even on a striker to partner up another world-class striker. I don't see it happening at all. I mean, it was suggested that Arsenal have a kitty set aside for Mario Gomez. Not Mario Gomez, Mario Götze. But I think that's midfield, and I think we still need to improve the midfield. We've been linked with Yann Villa and Etienne Capoue, and more recently Nigel de Jong of Man City. So my issue is that Arsenal don't spend a lot of money at the best of times. If we go and spend so much money on a striker that we don't necessarily need, are we going to then spend the money on the rest of the side, which still needs improving, defenders and midfielders, which are still very much necessary for us if we want to compete in the next league season? In conclusion, I think that it's best off if out of the two players, if we had the choice to go for Giroud, I mean, I think Giroud is probably the best value for money striker in Europe at the moment. I mean, his record speaks for himself, and he'd be available for less than half the amount that Fernando Llorente would, and that's on the buyout clause. I mean, that's to give the club absolutely Montpellier no choice but to sell the player. Is for 12.4 million. I think that is a ridiculously good deal. When you look in the last few seasons of the tens of millions being spent on strikers, and here we could get the best striker in France at the moment, probably the best French striker, for only £12.4 million. I mean, that's such a good deal. It really has to be done. Whereas Llorente, I mean, his record in the league this season hasn't been fantastic, but even then, I still think that for the price of 20 million for Arsenal, we really want an absolutely fantastic player. So there's my conclusion. Thanks a lot for watching and listening, and if you'd like to comment below any opinions we may have, I will visit them in future videos. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.